Now, when we think of the Doors, obviously Morrison, the quintessential frontman. But what else do you remember about the Doors? I say the Doors, and you think what? I think this.
Yeah, come on.
That little burp. I can still tell Manzarek's working upon first blush. The website is whenyourstrangemovie.com, and this is the great keyboardist Raymond Manzarek. Ray, how are you?
Hey, Dennis, just fine, thank you.
Did you go down to Austin?
No, I didn't. I've seen the movie a couple of times before it played Austin, so I'm very happy with it. It's the Doors story. It's the story of the '60s, the turmoil, the joy, the loss of a generation. You know, the man
who was the kid
along and just destroying the entire '60s for all of us, and it's a great film.
Who was the kid who helmed it? Who took the project on?
A guy named Tom DiCillo, a documentary filmmaker. Big fan. They love him in. I was going to say in Woodstock, in Sundance, and it was produced by Dick Wolf.
Oh, from Law and Order fame.
Yeah, Law and Order.
And I think the movie's narrated by the estimable Mr. Depp, if I'm not mistaken.
Johnny Depp is the narrator of the movie. He does a great job. You hear his voice. You don't see him. He's the narrator, and it's got. You know it's Johnny Depp, and yet it's just smooth and cool, and it kind of sucks you into the movie. Very hypnotic, and excellent narration.
Are you happier with it than Ollie Stone's depiction?
Well, yeah. Yes, you might say that. This is the Doors. Guess who plays Jim Morrison? Jim Morrison.
Oh, I see. So that's key. There's only
it's the '60s. Not only is it the Doors, it's Martin Luther King in Vietnam, and Bobby Kennedy and all of that stuff. It puts the Doors in context of the '60s. So it's a good movie, man. It's really good. And Oliver's was just over the top.
Yeah, little garish. We're talking to the one of the greatest keyboardists of the rock era, Ray Manzarek. When You're Strange begins showing in select cities tomorrow. For more information and theater locations, go to When You're, and it's let me give you the spelling. It is the possessive without the apostrophe. It's YOURE strangemovie.com. whenyourstrangemovie.com. My favorite scene in the Stone thing, as a matter of fact, is the look on McLaughlin Ree Manzarek's face when Morrison first lays a little bit of the poetry on him at the beach. And I'm trying to think, anywhere near accurate, is there a moment like that where Jim says, well, here, I've written something, and tells you, and you go, whoa, what did you say?
Well, it happened on the beach. I mean, he got that right. It did take place on the beach. Jim sings to me on the beach, summer of 1965. We've graduated. It's a month and a half later. I've got a master's degree from UCLA. He's got a bachelor's degree. We can't get jobs in Hollywood. They're making Doris Day Pillow Talk with Rock Hudson. They don't want Jean-Luc Godard. They don't want Fellini. They don't want Kurosawa, Satya. They don't want that kind of stuff. That's all we know how to do. So we've got to do something to support ourselves. Morrison comes walking down the beach, sings those songs to me, Moonlight Drive, and his voice was like Chet Baker, a jazz trumpet player from the 50s, a cool, great lyrics, and I did dig it. I did think it was terrific, and I heard Ray Charles, Jimmy Smith behind it. He did My Eyes Have Seen You, a Latino kind of song, Latino rock. Summer's Almost Gone. It's got little Bach lines that I could do. So I was extremely impressed, and I said, I'm going to put the music to these words and to this melody that you've got. We're going to get a rock and roll band together. By God, we're going to make $1 million.
Ray Manzarek, can you imagine being there at that moment? I love the birth of something, and that must have been so exhilarating. If I'm not mistaken, Chet Baker eventually drawn to Paris, too. It seems like those guys with that aesthetic were always ended up there at some point. When did you first realize that Jim's genius as a frontman might have been superseded by his self-destructive ways? How early on did that come to the fore?
Well, first of all, it turned into not the audience not paying attention to the poetry, not paying attention to the music, not allowing themselves to be seduced into a hypnotic state. That's what we were trying to do. We were creating a seance, palliate the dead, stimulate the living. And they just came to watch Jim Morrison. You don't watch, you listen to the Doors. But they had to watch Jim Morrison, and things started to go wrong. About, a good one-third of the way into the career, things were going a little haywire. Then he started drinking. So two-thirds of the way in, he was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing you could do, Dennis. There was no place you could where do you go?
Yeah,
it's 1967, it's 68, 69. Where do you go to dry out? Synanon, that's all there was on the West Coast, and that was a junkie place.
Especially when the guy's got Byron-esque aspirations anyway. And, he views no square is going to tell Jimmy Dean what side of the road to drive on.
Yeah, right.
That's sort
of... give up your life to Jesus. And, Jim Morrison was not going to do that.
No.
He was a world religion man. He was a Buddhist. He was a Muslim. He was a Hindu. He was a Jew. He was a Christian. And so are you, and so are all of us, Gandhi said.
We're talking to Ray Manzarek. The film is When You're Strange. Begins showing in select cities tomorrow. For more information in theaters, go to whenyourstrangemovie.com. The extrapolative nature of the end, especially played over the end of Coppola's film, absolutely I find riveting. Was it that? Did it reveal itself to you in the same way? Was he just riffing and that the Freudian stuff at the end comes out one night, or was it preconceived? Did you guys work that out in the studio?
No,
or something?
that was we had worked out the end. The end had become that 11.5-minute song that it was on the record early on at the London Fog on the Sunset Strip. Mm-hmm. A little dive that never had more than 3 or 4 people in the audience at one time.
Right.
3 sailors come in. They stay around for 15, 20 minutes, leave. Then 2 hookers come in. And it's like, girls, the guys, you missed each other. Then the men come in after the girls leave, and it was ridiculous.
Dribs and drabs.
But we had so much time to kill that we worked out the end on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a whole middle section where Jim is free to do improvisations.
Right.
Do verbal improvisations. We're improvising musically. He's improvising with words. And that whole Oedipal section,
yes.
The killer awoke before dawn, put his boots on, Father, I want to kill you, Mother, I want to you. That was totally spontaneous, and that blew me away and John and Robbie at the Whiskey A Go-Go. He comes in and says, after we had to go get him, missed the first set, stoned on acid, man. He was just in his room wearing underwear and cowboy boots. When we went to get him, get dressed. We're on stage. We have the next set to do. It's Wednesday night. Okay, the first set is slow, but the next set, the owner said, you guys better get Morrison here, and you find him and bring him in here fast. And he wants to do the end as the second song of the set, and does that whole thing for the first time. Totally spontaneous. If he'd conceived of it, he never told me about it. But man, we were right there with him. It was chilling.
Yeah, it's funny, Ray. I found it chilling at the time, too, and it's funny how you modify over your life. When he was young, the shaman, the dervish, the speaking in tongues thing always fascinated me. And now that I'm older, I look at it and I think, geez, I wish he'd just kick you know what I mean? It's a tough call. I love Morrison. I love the T-shirt, the iconography. I love the music. The beginning of that Absolutely Live thing in Philadelphia. Hey, Philadelphia. It's such a cool Dean Martin sort of vibe. And then as I get older, I think, what a waste that a young guy blows it all like dying in a bathtub in Paris. Is there any part of you that just shakes your head and thinks, I wish he was a little less of for the ages and a little more for the moment?
Oh, absolutely, of course. Yeah,
it's just saddening.
Well, there was a hysterical aspect to him too. The shaman is basically a cracked individual.
Yes, there
is a slight crack. Now, in a tribal society, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, the shaman had an elder figure to guide him. The young shaman was guided by an older shaman. The tradition was passed on. Mm-hmm. That crack was used to let the spirit slip in and out, but he could keep it under control. Morrison had no guide. I couldn't guide him. I didn't know anything about that sort of stuff until I became older. Yeah. I just saw him as Jim, and Jim is drinking too much. But it's a shamanic crack, and there was There was no precedent for it in American society.
Yeah,
My God,
eventually.
in Christian society, there are no shamans in Christian society, and we are a 2,000-year-old Christian society. And he just couldn't control it. He could not control himself. He couldn't control the alcohol. He couldn't control the consumption of drugs. And you know what? Neither could Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Brian Jones, my God, Kurt Cobain. They all died at 27. They could not make it over that hump, the number 9 numerologically.
Well, the crack becomes a fissure, and the fissure becomes the abrading of the tectonic plates, and then the upheaval. Well,
yeah,
listen.
The earthquake happens, yeah, and that's it, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Ray. I often have a theory, and this is what we'll close with. We're talking to Ray Manzarek. When You're Strange begins showing in select cities tomorrow. For more information and theater locations, to go to whenyourstrangemovie.com. Can we agree on this? Had he lived, Altered States would have became his favorite film.
Say it again, man.
Had Jim lived, the William Hurt film Altered States about eating the peyote paste and laying in the sensory depth tank would have been his favorite film.
Well, it could have been. I mean, it certainly is a good one, you know. It certainly is a good one. I've never done that sensory deprivation thing, so I have no idea. But
I just watched that film, and I think of Morrison in that same sort of role.
I tell you, I did take ketamine. That's what they were actually doing. They were doing K, that green stuff that Lily took. And forget it, man. It is just that stuff is horrible. It's
good for you, Ray. There you go, kids.
Sensory deprivation tank, and you know, no way.
Kids, remember, Ray Manzarek said, "Just say no on the K." All right, Manzarek. Good to talk to you, brother. And I'll see this as soon as I can.